What if a single missile, fired at precisely the right instant, could redraw the map of a continent's war in mere minutes? This question, once confined to the realm of speculative fiction and military theorists' war games, became an urgent reality in the year 2025, transforming the very nature of conflict on the European continent and sending shockwaves through every capital and command post around the globe. For centuries, armies have thrived or withered by the strength and security of their supply lines. From the time of Alexander the Great, whose armies swept across Asia but faltered when their food and equipment failed to keep pace, to the endless supply trains that fueled Napoleon's conquests and ultimately doomed his invasion of Russia, the lifeblood of war has always been logistics. Roads, rivers, railways, and convoys have shaped the outcome of wars. Sever these arteries, and even the mightiest force collapses into confusion and defeat. In World War II, the Allies' relentless bombing of German rail networks crippled the Wehrmacht's ability to supply its armies, hastening the war's end. In the Vietnam War, the infamous Ho Chi Minh Trail, a sprawling network of jungle paths and secret depots, allowed North Vietnamese forces to outmaneuver superior American firepower. More recently, in the Gulf War of 1991, coalition air power targeted Iraq's bridges, power plants, and fuel depots, paralyzing Saddam Hussein's command structure before the ground war even began. Across history, the lesson is clear. Logistics is the true backbone of every military campaign. By the year 2025, Ukraine's city of Lviv had transformed from a historic crossroads into the throbbing heart of military logistics for Ukrainian troops and their NATO allies. Nearly every crucial delivery, ammunition, armored vehicles, advanced weaponry, and humanitarian aid, flowed through this single hub, funneled from Western Europe to the blazing front lines in the east. Lviv's rail yards, highways, and warehouses became the arteries through which the war was fought and sustained. Every crate, every locomotive, every high command order pulsed through Lviv. It was more than a city. It became the central nervous system of the war. Here, the intricate web of European and Soviet rail networks converged, creating a logistical bottleneck. Decades of bunkers, camouflage, and decoys offered the illusion of security. But beneath all the concrete and secrecy, one fatal weakness lingered. If Lviv's lifeline was cut, the colossal machinery of war would stall. Command would dissolve, supplies would rot on stranded trains, and strategies carefully crafted over years would turn to ash, all in a matter of hours. This was not a distant hypothetical. The obliteration of the Lviv hub proved that with today's precision, missiles, massive armies, billions in hardware, and whole years of planning can be rendered worthless overnight. A single strike, perfectly aimed, is all it takes. So what made Lviv so indispensable, and why was it exposed despite every defense? The answer can be found not only in geography, but in the relentless evolution of modern warfare itself. To understand how Lviv rose to such prominence, and why it became a target of historic significance, we must trace the shifting logic of war and technology that brought us to this moment. Why did so much depend on a single city, and how did it become the nerve center of a war? To answer this, we must consider both geography and history. Lviv stands at the crossroads of Europe and the East, bridging not only continents, but centuries of ambition and rivalry. Armies and traders have long converged here, drawn by the city's unique position as the main entryway to the vast plains beyond. In the turbulent years before the conflict, Lviv was reshaped with determination. Western support transformed it into a NATO-aligned logistics stronghold, designed to receive, process, and dispatch aid and weaponry with unprecedented efficiency. By 2025, nearly 4/5 of all military support to Ukraine, artillery shells, anti-tank missiles, armored vehicles, precision-guided munitions, flowed through Lviv's sprawling web of depots and rail yards. Its logistical importance grew, mirroring historic supply centers such as Verdun in World War I, or the vital port of Antwerp during World War II, both of which became so heavily fortified and concentrated that their loss or paralysis threatened entire campaigns. Yet this lifeline was not without peril. its most vulnerable point was both obvious and unavoidable: the railway gauge shift. Here, European tracks abruptly ended, and the wider Soviet rails began, forcing every shipment to be transferred at a single, exposed junction. There were no real alternatives. This made Lviv indispensable and put a target squarely on its back. The city's vulnerability recalls the infamous Anzio beachhead in World War II, where Allied forces became trapped and exposed because all reinforcements and supplies had to pass through a narrow, easily targeted corridor. Military planners saw the threat. Their response was relentless: massive camouflage efforts, scattered and disguised unloading zones, and command centers hidden deep in reinforced Cold War-era bunkers, now upgraded to NATO standards. Layers of Western and Soviet air defenses encircled the city, while redundant supply routes tried to mask the flow of goods. These efforts echoed the Allied dispersal of supply dumps in Normandy after D-Day, or the Soviet Union's secret construction of underground rail hubs during the Cold War. On the surface, Lviv became a fortress of logistics. Every measure was taken to shield its vital arteries. But this concentration of resources also created an illusion of invincibility, a single point of failure. If Lviv was struck, the consequences would not simply be delayed shipments. The entire supply network, and the balance of the war, could tip in an instant. This is the paradox of modern logistics. The pursuit of efficiency and security often leads to dangerous centralization. With so much at stake, the question was inevitable: could such a fortified center truly be destroyed? Against all odds, was it possible to sever the lifeline and expose the vulnerabilities of modern warfare? The answer arrived with terrifying clarity on a cold morning in January, when a single missile rewrote the logic of the battlefield. What happened in Lviv would send shockwaves through military doctrine worldwide. How do you strike what you cannot see, when the enemy buries its heart beneath concrete, camouflage, and layers of deception? This was the riddle facing Russian intelligence as they set their sights on Lviv, the nerve center of Ukraine's wartime logistics, now encased in secrecy and bristling with layered defenses. Their mission: to penetrate a fortress designed for survival. The first wave was relentless intelligence gathering. High-resolution satellites swept the city every few hours, searching for subtle shifts: a convoy at midnight, a supply truck diverting from its usual route. Thermal imaging caught traces of buried generators and clandestine movement beneath the industrial sprawl, hinting at deep activity far from prying eyes. This was not unlike the Allied efforts to locate Germany's secret V-2 rocket facilities in Peenemünde, using a combination of aerial reconnaissance, spy networks, and intercepted communications. Signals interception soon delivered a vital clue. Electronic listening posts in Belarus and the Black Sea scanned for encrypted NATO traffic. Over weeks, analysts detected a persistent knot of signals, all converging near a single industrial compound on the city's western edge. Here, behind innocuous facades, lay a concealed command node. Just as British intelligence in World War II triangulated the location of German Enigma machines by tracking radio transmissions, Russian analysts pieced together the threads that pointed to Lviv's hidden core. But machines alone could not solve the puzzle. Human intelligence had to bridge the remaining gaps. A deep-cover operative, embedded within the logistics chain, gained access to shipment manifests and bunker schematics. By overlaying this information with satellite and thermal data, the team pinpointed a camouflaged hangar, masking the only entrance to an underground labyrinth. The operatives' reports were chillingly precise. The bunker plunged 30 meters below ground, protected by multiple layers of reinforced concrete and steel. Suddenly, both the location and the hub's physical vulnerabilities stood revealed. Confirmation had to be absolute. At dawn, a low-flying drone swept in, skimming treetops to slip past radar. Its sensors mapped the defenses and fed back exact coordinates, verifying the entrance and charting the air defense grid within striking distance. These measures recall the Israeli raid on Entebbe, where a combination of satellite imagery, local informants, and aerial reconnaissance pinpointed the precise layout of the Ugandan airport. Each fragment, Thermal scans, intercepted transmissions, agent reports, drone imagery, merged into a single, detailed digital dossier. Piece by piece, the anatomy of Lviv's most protected asset was laid bare. Yet the stakes could not be higher. A single error would squander irreplaceable resources and alert defenders, slamming the door shut forever. Now the ultimate question sharpened into focus. With the enemy's secret heart exposed, what weapon on earth could reach so deep and shatter such formidable fortifications? The answer would redefine the limits of warfare and test the promise of Russia's most advanced missile technology. What really happens in the aftermath of the unthinkable? A strike that no defense could anticipate or withstand. Before dawn, a single MiG-31K knifes across the upper atmosphere, its silhouette barely visible above the clouds. Years of clandestine intelligence work, months of strategic deception, and weeks of relentless coordination have led to this moment. The jet is armed with a solitary weapon, the Kinjal hypersonic missile, its target locked, a fortress thought unbreakable. The Kinjal is more than fast, it is a paradigm shift. Hurtling at over 10 times the speed of sound, it maneuvers with eerie unpredictability, its path an enigma to even the most sophisticated tracking systems. There is no warning, no scramble, no chance for interception. The missile is designed to punch through the world's toughest defenses, to annihilate the deepest bunkers and most hardened command centers. In a single silent moment, the missile is unleashed. Speed, stealth, and surgical precision converge as the Kinjal ghosts past every air defense layer, rendering them meaningless. With less than 60 seconds between release and impact, the missile slams into the Lviv command complex, a sprawling underground hub buried beneath meters of concrete and steel, housing the logistical heart of an entire front. The explosion is apocalyptic. Shockwaves ripple through the earth as the bunker collapses inward. Staggered detonations erupt through ammunition stores and fuel reserves. Vital infrastructure, railway junctions, communication relays, energy depots, are vaporized. The core of the supply network is not merely damaged, it is erased. In the immediate chaos, the battlefront unravels. Command links vanish into static. Orders are lost. Columns of supply trucks idle on highways, paralyzed by confusion and a sudden lack of direction. Forward units, cut off from headquarters, face isolation. Ammunition dwindles. Fuel runs low. Each passing hour amplifies the crisis as the machinery of war grinds to a halt. Fear and uncertainty spread like wildfire. Rumors race ahead of facts, stories of an unstoppable weapon, of defenses that failed without a fight. Units fragment. Some attempt to fall back, others entrench themselves, but all are haunted by the same realization. The carefully constructed web of logistics, fortified and redundant, disintegrates in mere hours. Strategic paralysis descends across the alliance. NATO's multi-billion-dollar air defense umbrella, once the pride of Western military engineering, stands exposed, powerless against a single missile. Generations of planning and investment are undone in an instant. The credibility of alliances, the confidence in deterrence, the logic of defense itself, broken. The loss is not merely material, it is psychological. The myth of invulnerability is shattered. Allies begin to doubt the systems that once reassured them. Adversaries watch and learn. The rules of warfare are rewritten in real time, and the aftershocks ripple through capitals and command posts far from the blast zone. Yet the implications reach even further. In this single strike, the future of conflict is transformed, not just for this war, but for every war to come. The world reels in shock, but analysts and leaders scramble to understand what this means for tomorrow. As new tactics emerge, the race to adapt begins, on every front. The age of invulnerability is finished. The destruction of the Lviv logistical hub in Ukraine by Russia's Kinjal hypersonic missile in 2025 marked a brutal turning point. It proved that even the deepest bunkers and thickest layers of defense are no longer safe. The very ground we once trusted now offers scant protection against a determined, technologically advanced enemy. Lesson 1 is unforgiving. No target is truly secure anymore. The strike on Lviv showed that a single, precise weapon can bypass or neutralize decades of fortification in mere minutes. Geography, concrete, and tradition cannot guarantee safety when the adversary holds the technological edge. Lesson 2 is even more chilling. Wars no longer require massed armies grinding through attrition. Remote intelligence-driven operations, guided by integration and surgical strikes, can now cripple years of supply planning and infrastructure in a single night. Entire fronts can collapse without a single tank ever crossing a border. The lesson echoes the devastating effect of the German Blitzkrieg in 1940, when concentrated armored thrusts bypassed fortifications and paralyzed command networks. But now, the speed and reach of missiles amplifies this paradigm 100-fold. Lesson 3. The balance of power is being rewritten daily. Strength is now measured not by the number of troops, but by the speed of missiles, the reach of sensors, and the sharpness of cyber tools. The tools of modern warfare allow nations to shape conflicts across continents, far from their own borders. This is a fundamental shift, from contact-centric to standoff-centric strategies. The new goal is not to hold ground, but to dominate from afar. By disrupting logistics, command, and morale, a nation can shatter resistance without engaging in a direct clash. For military planners and alliances, the warning is clear and urgent. Critical infrastructure, warehouses, rail hubs, command centers, must be reimagined as obvious and vulnerable targets. Dispersal, deception, and rapid adaptation are the new watchwords. Planning must anticipate not just the next move, but the next technological leap and the hidden weaknesses it exposes. The psychological impact is seismic. Confidence in old defenses has been broken. Every country now faces a world where sudden, decisive strikes could devastate entire systems in hours. The threat of unpredictable attack shadows the minds of leaders and citizens alike. The collapse of the Lviv hub brings to mind the shock that swept through the United States after the attack on Pearl Harbor, when the myth of invulnerability was shattered, and the nation was forced to confront a new reality overnight. The stakes could not be higher. Failure to adapt risks national infrastructure, the credibility of alliances, and the very idea of deterrence. If adversaries judge our defenses obsolete, they may act with impunity, shattering the fragile balance that keeps conflict at bay. So, what choices are left for leaders, strategists, and the public? What must we do to survive and endure in this transformed world? The shockwaves from Lviv are still spreading, and leaders across the globe are scrambling for answers. The path forward demands hard decisions and a new vision of security. If a single, precise strike can upend everything you depend on, what will you do to make sure you are not the next target? The world you trusted to be safe, protected by distance, by depth, by the best defenses money can buy, has been transformed overnight. The obliteration of the Lviv logistical hub in Ukraine proved that even the most heavily fortified stronghold, shielded by the latest air defense systems, can be breached in seconds. The illusion of safety, once bought with concrete walls and cutting-edge technology, has been shattered. This was not a routine attack, nor just another missile in the sky. It was a meticulously coordinated operation. Intelligence, advanced weaponry, and real-time data fused together, targeting the very arteries of military supply. One Russian Kinzhal hypersonic missile, launched with precision, made a fortress irrelevant. Centuries of military thinking, spread out your assets, thicken your walls, layer your shields, were rendered useless in the span of a heartbeat. Consider what is at stake. Billions of dollars poured into infrastructure, the faith that alliances can guarantee collective security, the fragile backbone of logistics that keeps entire nations functioning, all of it exposed and vulnerable. In a single moment, the most defended hub in Europe became a smoking ruin. If that can happen there, what does it say about every other critical node, every other assumption of safety? The challenge facing us is stark and urgent. Will you persist in pouring resources into the strategies of the past? Or will you pivot to confront a world where any flaw, no matter how small, can be exploited instantly. This new era of warfare punishes hesitation and rewards only those who act swiftly and think ahead. Complacency is a luxury no one can afford. The next threat will not wait for you to catch up. Your ability to anticipate and adapt may be the thin line separating survival from irrelevance. The question is no longer whether the threat is real. It is how you will respond when the unimaginable happens again. Will you cling to outdated doctrines and the comfort of habit? Or will you accept the challenge of a world where every moment matters and every expectation can be upended without warning? In this new reality, the future belongs to those who refuse to be caught unprepared. The decision is yours, and it cannot be delayed. But what can be done, practically and concretely, to adapt to this new threat landscape? History offers lessons, and modern technology provides options. Let's explore some practical steps, scenarios, and strategies that nations and alliances must consider to survive in this transformed world. First, decentralization must become a guiding principle. Rather than relying on a single hub like Lviv, future logistics networks must be distributed across multiple, redundant nodes. Imagine a scenario where Ukraine, anticipating the vulnerability of Lviv, establishes secondary and tertiary hubs in towns such as Lutsk, Ternopil, and Rivne. Supplies would be routed via smaller, less conspicuous depots, complicating enemy targeting. This mirrors the Allies' use of dispersed supply dumps in England prior to D-Day, where thousands of smaller warehouses and fuel depots ensured no single attack could cripple the invasion force. Second, mobility and concealment are essential. Infrastructure must be designed to move and adapt quickly. Mobile command posts, containerized supply depots, and train-borne staff headquarters can all be rapidly relocated as intelligence dictates. During the Gulf War, coalition forces used mobile logistics bases, trucks and trailers equipped with satellite communications and modular shelters, to stay ahead of Iraqi missile attacks. Third, deception and misinformation must be elevated to an art form. Inflatable decoys, electronic jamming, and false radio traffic can lure enemy sensors away from real targets. In World War II, the Allies famously created entire fake armies, such as General Patton's 1st United States Army Group, to mislead German intelligence ahead of the Normandy invasion. Modern equivalents include the use of radar-reflective tents and heat-emitting generators to simulate activity at decoy supply hubs, drawing enemy munitions away from genuine assets. Fourth, rapid repair and recovery capabilities are vital. When the inevitable strike occurs, military engineers must be able to restore broken rail lines, bridges, and communications within hours, not days. Pre-positioned repair teams, stockpiles of spare parts, and modular construction kits can make the difference between paralysis and resilience. The Israeli Defense Forces' ability to repair bombed runways at Ben Gurion Airport during the Yom Kippur War ensured continued operations in the face of relentless attacks. Fifth, cyber defense and information resilience must be prioritized. As much as physical logistics are at risk, so too are the digital networks that control them. A well-timed cyber attack could erase shipment manifests, scramble GPS data, or freeze command and control computers, magnifying the chaos created by a physical strike. Nations must invest in hardened communications, air-gapped backup systems, and rapid response cyber teams to ensure continuity in the event of digital sabotage. Sixth, international cooperation and information sharing are more important than ever. No nation can defend alone against threats that move at hypersonic speed and exploit global information networks. The European Union's Galileo satellite system, for example, could be leveraged to provide real-time warning and targeting data to all member states, not just one. NATO's intelligence fusion centers must become faster and more adaptive, integrating commercial data and open-source intelligence alongside classified streams to provide a comprehensive picture of evolving threats. Seventh, civil defense and societal resilience must be strengthened. The destruction of a logistics hub does not only impact soldiers, it threatens civilians by interrupting humanitarian aid, food supplies, and energy distribution. Regular drills, stockpiled emergency supplies, and public education campaigns can help insulate societies from the worst shocks. Sweden's total defense concept, which integrates civilian and military planning at every level, offers a model for other nations to follow. Eighth, investment in next-generation missile defense is essential, but must be realistic. While no defense is foolproof, layered systems combining ground-based interceptors, airborne lasers, and electronic countermeasures may blunt the edge of hypersonic weapons. Israel's multi-tiered Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow systems have evolved in response to changing threats, but even they recognize that dispersal and redundancy are as important as interception. Ninth, leaders must cultivate a new mindset, one that prizes adaptability, speed, and creativity over tradition and bureaucracy. Wargaming, scenario planning, and red teaming exercises should be routine, challenging assumptions, and exposing hidden vulnerabilities. The United States military's famed Millennium Challenge exercise in 2002, though controversial, demonstrated how unconventional thinking could overwhelm even the most advanced forces if complacency set in. 10th, open communication with the public is crucial. In an age where social media can spread panic faster than any missile, transparency and timely, accurate information are the best antidotes to fear and misinformation. The British government's calm broadcasts during the Blitz helped Londoners endure nightly bombing raids and maintain morale. These steps are not theoretical. They are the lessons of history, updated for a world where the speed of destruction far outpaces the speed of response. The choice now facing nations, alliances, and individuals is stark. Adapt or risk irrelevance, resilience, or ruin. Let us close with a scenario, a vision of what adaptation might look like. Imagine a Ukraine where logistics is decentralized, with dozens of smaller hubs networked by encrypted communications and mobile convoys. Enemy missiles, launched with deadly precision, find only empty warehouses and decoy depots. Rail lines, damaged by attack, are repaired by teams mobilized within hours, using prefabricated sections. Supplies, rerouted by artificial intelligence, arrive at the front lines without pause. The enemy, frustrated, finds that no single strike can paralyze the war effort. This is not a fantasy, but the logical evolution of defense in the 21st century. In the end, the obliteration of the Lviv hub is both a warning and a blueprint. It shows us the price of complacency and the power of adaptability. The future of conflict will belong to those who learn these lessons and move faster than the threats arrayed against them. So, as you contemplate the world that has emerged from the ashes of Lviv, ask yourself, will you be ready when the next moment of truth arrives? The decision, as always, is yours, and history will remember those who chose to act.